All right, welcome back to Correctional Officer Stories for Now with Steve. As always, I am your host. Sorry for that. Let me turn that off there. As you can see by the title, I'm going to bring you a story about two inmates that have escaped from the state prison in Florence. So the Arizona Department of Corrections prison facility in Florence, Arizona. These two inmates escaped Saturday evening when they were unable to be counted for at 2030 counts. So, just to give you a little bit of background here, these two inmates are doing a lot of time for sexual assault offenses. Excuse me here, my computer's frozen. But I'm going to let you know here. So the names are John Charpiot, 49, and David Herman, 61, were last seen at the Arizona State Prison Complex, Florence, on Saturday, according to the Arizona Department of Corrections. The men were unaccounted for by the time the prison's 8:30 p.m. head count began. John Charpiot was serving a 35-year sentence for a 2011 conviction of child molestation and sexual abuse. Should have smoked him alive. Herman was sentenced to 100 years in prison the following year after being convicted on kidnapping and second-degree burglary charges, the department said. Both these men were housed in a medium custody unit on South Yard in Florence, Arizona, at the state prison complex. Now, I've never been to South Yard. I don't know if it's an SO yard, meaning a sex offender yard, or if it's just a protective custody yard. You can bet your ass it's not a GP yard. It's got to be a protective custody or an SO yard. I'm not sure. I've been to Florence. I've been to Inman. Inman is just up over the hill in Florence. Florence is a small town. I've never been to South Yard. I've been to North Yard quite a few times. But these men were accounted for. So on swing shift, when the shift comes in, shift changes at 2 p.m. So it's 2 to 10. Now, if they're doing 12s, it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then the back half of the 12s is 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I don't know if they're still doing 12s. But nonetheless, on the second shift, you're going to do... Well, if you're 6 to 6, you're going to do quite a few counts. But you're going to do a 1600 count, so a 4 p.m. count. And then the last count before they all lock down for the night is 2030, 8:30. And then you do another count at 11 p.m. And then again, I want to say it's 6 a.m. and then again at 11 a.m. So there's quite a few counts in the prison facility because it's one of the most important things you do other than maintaining security and safety of the staff, public, and inmates. Count is the most important thing you do because you got to account for the inmates, where they're at, what they're doing. Now, this happened on a Saturday, so I'm going to assume there wasn't a ton of, off-site work crews and inside work crews and all kind, things going on to where officers come to different yards. They come pick their inmates up and then they pull them off and then they go supervise them to whatever job they're taking them to. A lot of inmates will work on the yard as porters, librarians, tutors. There's all kinds of jobs, admin, porters. They do quite a bit of things. However, on Saturdays, it's usually their off day. So I don't know, but I know that they were counted in at 1600 count. I'm sure count cleared at like 1630, 1640. Then they probably came out. They went to chow. It's a medium custody yard, so it's probably an open yard. I'm not sure if it's a bay setting or a cell setting. I want to say it's a cell setting, but I'm not positive. And then from there, it looks like there's no time been released what time they did this, but it looks like they knocked down an AC unit, broke through a wall, and then used bolt cutters to cut a hole out through the fence, and that's how they got out. So I guess one of my questions would be, when they were doing all that, where the heck were the officers at? Now, we all know that ADC is short-staffed, and it has been for a long time. But that's a lot of noise. I mean, there might be a lot of inmates on that yard. I don't know how many inmates that yard houses. But to knock down an AC unit, break through a wall, and then cut through a chain link fence, for one, that's a lot of noise. For two, it's a prison. It's supposed to be safe and secure, right? There are zone activations when you get through a fence. All the fences are lined with security measures to keep inmates inside the fence line, inside of the gate of the fence, not outside of it. So I'm wondering, the main control officer, did it set off the zone? Did it activate any alarms? What was going on? And by the time it did that, was it too late? Were they that quick with the bolt cutters to get through the fence, knock the wall down, whatever? Who knows? I mean, that's crazy. It's just crazy. So when, officers, you have a yard set on the yard. In male facilities, it's called the yard set. That's the guy that runs the yard, gets the inmates to chow if it's a closed custody yard and it's controlled movement. But he does a lot of things. He switches out the kitchen workers. They just kind of, they're usually like one of the more experienced officers. They run the yard. When count time starts to come around, during the day you have a count officer, but like on swing shift you don't. So you're going to use your yard set usually to do count. So what they do is, every single officer that's working the yard, you may have a kitchen officer. You may have 2 officers assigned to A yard. You may have 2 officers assigned to B yard, C yard, D yard. I mean, I don't know what the yards are called there. And then if they have inmates out, they create an out count, and the yard set comes around and picks up the out count from the kitchen officer. Let's say there's a tool room officer. There's the yard officer is going to have some porters out, and then so on and so forth. You got some inmates up in visitation that are working because visitation is going on. Not at 2030 count. So at 2030 count, you're probably only going to have a few yard porters out and maybe still some kitchen workers because they've ran late or whatever. So the yard set goes around, picks up the out counts from the officer, goes back up to the yard office, usually where the shift commanders sit, the sergeants, the lieutenants, maybe the captain's still there. Gets count ready. The officers on the yards have a count sheet with every single inmate's name on it, with their ADC number and where their housing unit is. So let's say South Yard is a cell setting. They're going to start at cell 1 and work their way all the way around until they're finished. Whether it's a pod setting, like at Perryville, it's an outside cell setting. So you're going to do your count. The inmates have to have their IDs in the window, and you have to face to ID them and make sure they're alive and breathing. Do a lot of officers do that? I don't know. However, you go around, inmate Smith, inmate Herman, you in there? I face to ID, bam, bam, X, they're in there. Cell 2, inmate Smith, inmate Herman, you in there? Bam, bam. Oh, Harmon's not there. You draw a circle. That means he's out, right? A no. Out. Boom. You go on, so forth and so forth. Charpiot. Oh, he's out. So when you go in to call your count into the yard set, you say, hey, this is my numbers. I've got 45 in. I got 6 out. Let me give you my outs. I've got Charpiot out in cell 1. Herman out in cell 3, and the count yard set will be like, whoa, wait, your count's off. Go recount that pod, and then call me back. I'm telling you, officers that you're watching me, you may be new or experienced. It doesn't matter. If you are conducting the count, whether you are doing the count up at the yard office where the officers call in, or you're counting the pods or the runs, if the count officer tells you go back and count that pod, go back and count that pod. And for you, those of you that are conducting the count where the officers are calling into you, don't tell them what's wrong. Let them go figure it out. That does no good, especially in a situation like this. And I've ran into 2 situations like that where it was just like, oh yeah, they're good. Never mind. They're there. They're there. They're not out. They shouldn't be out. They don't have a job, or they don't do this, or whatever. They're there. And they weren't there. And we ended up locking down the whole damn Constitution, and they were at Complex Medical. That happened to me twice. So, and that was when I was a shift commander, and that's not good when you have to lock down the whole complex. They think there's an escape. TSU, I mean, it was a mess. It was a freaking mess. So do your job and do it good. Take pride in what you do, because if you run into a situation like this and you didn't go back and count for them, and you see these guys every day, you know they don't work, it's a Saturday, they're there, and then come to find out, no, they're not. They freaking knocked an AC unit down, broke through the damn wall, and now they're through the fence. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I mean, there's probably several reasons as to why this happened, but as shift commanders, you do what's called security challenges. So, you have the outer perimeter, and it's all sand, so you can see foot tracks and footprints and so on and so forth. And you have your fence. Usually there's an outer perimeter and an inner perimeter. So there's 2 fences. This one, it sounds like there was one. But anytime the officers have to do 3 sets of zones each shift. And it may have changed now because they might be on 12s. But you still got to do 3. And you'll go out there and you'll go to each zone, and you have your key set, or you might have the zone. It's like a metal bar, and you shake the fence and you activate the zone to make sure it works. Man control will radio you and say zone, whatever's active, clear. He'll go ahead and clear it, knowing that's you out there working the zones. The lights pop off. Like I said, it activates in man control. Then you go on. You rake out your footprints. You go on to the next zone. Rattle it. Make sure it pops on it. Sometimes it'll pop on as you walk up to it. You call man control, let them know. They'll say, hey, zone 15 active, secure. Reset it. Rake out your footprints. Now, as a shift commander, I would go out there sometimes and put some tracks out there. And I would always make them leading out of the prison, not into the prison. Because if they're coming in, you probably know it's a work crew. If you're going to escape, you're going to make your way out of the prison, right? Unless you've got all the time in the world and you're going to walk back to the gate and then go. You're going to be walking out. So I would leave footprints, and my officers were good. They would always pick them up, and when they would go to initiate the incident command system, I would stop them on the radio and say, good job, security challenge passed. Go ahead and rake those footprints out. But there was times to where sometimes in the Sally Port or the V gate, there would be footprints in some uncommon areas where, the porters in the V gate were working and they didn't rake their footprints out, and we'd have to do an emergency count, lock it down, and then finally figure out that it was, they just didn't rake their footprints out. Because it's everywhere you look, it's dirt, it's sandy, and that's for a reason. If they escape, you can track the footprint. They probably went and pulled the inmate shoe size from Mellon property, what type of shoes they were issued, what clothes they've been issued. It doesn't matter. I mean, they could have switched shoes. Who knows what they've done here, but it's just crazy to me. If I get that call from my officer saying, hey, Sarge, these 2 inmates are missing, and it's 20, 30 count, and they were accounted for at 1,600. So you're going to start calling, hey, are they at Complex Medical? Are they on a hospital run? Are they maybe on an off-site work crew that we didn't know that was going off-site on a Saturday for some reason? Where are they at? Did we miss an out count? What's going on? And then if we still can't find them, obviously you're initiating ICS. You're letting Complex know that you've got 2 inmates that are unaccounted for. You're not able to clear count. Complex will initiate another ICS. They'll lock down the entire institution, and it will remain locked down until these inmates are found. Now, they're saying that these inmates obviously know some people in Florence, and they are thinking that they are still in Florence, holding up possibly some hostages in a house. They're going door to door every day, and the DPS director did say that if your neighbor, you haven't seen your neighbor in a while, or your coworker just hasn't been at work, or whatever, then please let us know. So obviously there's some tips that have come in saying that they're still in Florence, probably in some house holding whoever they possibly knew up, which is stupid. Why would you escape to stay in Florence? Now they say they do have connections to, one of them has connections to Mexico, so they're trying to flee, but it's going to be tough to get out of Florence. For one, Florence is a small area, and there's not too many ways out of Florence. I think there's 1, 2, and then up and around Iman. There might be a back way out. I don't know, but all that's blocked off. You're not getting the hell out of there. I mean, you're going to have to really disguise yourself to get out of there. But they're checking IDs. These dudes don't have IDs. You know what I mean? They have their inmate ID. But I don't know. It's crazy, but that's what's going on. If you just join in, they escaped on Saturday night. They were unaccounted for at 8:30 p.m. head count, which is 20:30. They were accounted for at 1600 count. There is a $35,000 reward per escapee, and there is a 480 witness line. So 480 witness, you can call into if you have any knowledge of these inmates and where their whereabouts are. Also, the U.S. Marshal Service is part of this, the FBI, obviously all of corrections, DPS. So you know that we got our best and baddest out there. So, and some of our TSU guys, all of them are great. You got the fugitive apprehension out there, the canine teams. And I've had some canine officers work directly for me, and they great officers. And I'll tell you what, French, I don't know if you watch my videos, but if you're watching, bro, one of the best officers that I've ever had. And I worked with some great officers. I worked in the male facility, female facility, but he was spot on. Great officer. We had an incident one time, and he ended up becoming a canine officer and been doing it for a while. Great. I mean, he's awesome. But we had an incident, and I was fairly new, and we would do a lot of security challenges within a female prison. There's not a whole lot going on. But we had it's on I talked about it. It's on one of my stories. We had an inmate, just quickly the story, cut herself up really bad. She was really trying to cut herself or kill herself. She cut her arms up long ways, and she was bleeding everywhere. So, the guy on the yard initiated the ICS, and a lot of people thought it was a fake one. So myself and another sergeant go running down there, and it was not a fake one. She's bleeding everywhere. I get on the radio, take over command. I tell main control, I need 911 ASAP. And what does the control officer do? He's like, Complex wants to know who's authorizing that. I said, I am. I'm authorizing it. Because they usually want to have a higher person authorize 911, but I don't care. I'll take the blame for that. I'm authorizing it. Get him here. This inmate's going to die if you don't. French was up in medical. He knew it wasn't a game because I came from Lewis facility, so he knew I was serious. And he got the nurse down there, and we held pressure on that inmate for 25 minutes until the ambo got there. I mean, like, we were stuck because it was dead summer, and she was bleeding everywhere. We had towels, but man, he saved us because that nurse helped us out big time. So props to you, French. I always appreciated you. All my officers, Flick, Machuca, all you guys that watch me. I'm probably leaving some out. Mendoza. But yeah, I appreciate you. And Ramos, I know you watch my videos, man. Props to you, bro. Great officer, and he's your K9 now. I mean, what else can I say, bro? You're badass. But yeah, I hope you guys get these clowns, which I'm sure you will. And I definitely appreciate you guys tuning into my content. Got a lot going on right now, but You know, like I said, it's okay not to be okay, but don't stay not okay. Anyhow, I appreciate it. I've got a new video editor, but it's trying to charge me like $139. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. I've used it. I just haven't uploaded it because it's got a watermark on it. Anyway, have a great day, and catch you in the next one. Peace.